And we're all here for a journey. We're also here with our choir director, Mary Lou Basaraba. This is the time of our calendar year that we remember. We commemorate Yom Hashoah, which officially was earlier this week, but as a congregation, much of our liturgy will be recalling that horrible time in our history. And we have one of the luminaries in our congregation, Rabbi Eigner, who is a member here who will be speaking during the service from a very personal perspective about that very dark time. The beauty of Judaism is that while we go through darkness, we also celebrate light. And on this weekend, Elijah Sales is becoming a bar mitzvah, and your being here proves that what happened in the last century was not the end of Judaism, but it paved the road for new beginnings. So thank you for being that seed, Eli, that helps us embrace tomorrow. And a little bit later on in the service, we're going to be celebrating someone's 30th birthday, but we won't give that away just yet. Cantor, how are we opening today?
We will be opening with the singing of Eli, Eli, which in your prayer books can be found on page 349.
Before we continue with our liturgy, just a word about where we are as Temple Akiba with regard to masks. About a week ago, we put an email communication out to our congregation that we no longer require masks indoors, so that's a huge step forward, but there's a very high recommendation that when we're in large public spaces that people wear them. So it's not mandatory, but it's just a recommendation that we have. You'll notice even from the Bima, some of us are wearing one, some of us are not. It's become my own personal policy that when I'm leading services, that I will not be wearing one, but I tend to wear one when I'm sitting in the community. So please decide as you will per your own guidance and the safety of those who are around you. We're going to be continuing with the lighting of our Shabbat candles. And Eli, we invite you and your mom and your dad, as well as Zachary, so there he is, Zachary, to come forward. We're on page 2, and we invite everyone to harness this light together. friends, we turn to page 5. In our prayer books, we continue with our Kiddush. We ask all who are able to please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uratzon Kikilanu zikaron l'maaseh Bereshit ki hu yom tefillah lemikra'ei kodesh zecher yitziat mitzrayim ki banu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta Mikol Hamim V'Shabbat Kodshecha V'Ahava Uratzon Kinchotanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh Hashat. L'chaim.
L'chaim. Please be seated, everyone. Mazel tov, everyone. You guys all sit. Eli, you're saying excuse me. It's our honor to invite forward, representing the congregation, Herman Barnathan, who is here from our men's group, and Linda Park, who is here from our sisterhood. Eli, they've got a special presentation for you both. Do you have the... Okay, I'll go get it. We'll have Herman go first. Okay. Herman, you're going to go first. I'll be right back.
I'm up first. Okay. I'm Herman Barnathan from the men's group. I saw you drink the cup. You didn't come to my Seder, so you didn't have any there. You must have been busy that night, Eli.
Yeah.
You prefer Eli or Elijah?
Eli.
Eli it is then, okay. We are proud, the men's group is very proud to present to you this evening the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible. Anything you need to know about the religion, it's in here. It starts with Bereshit and it goes all the way through everything you'd ever want to read. It's inscribed with your name and the date of your bar mitzvah. You'll never be able to forget it. There's places in here where you can write the good things and unfortunately remembrances also. In other words, it's your Bible. Keep it, cherish it, read it over and over again. We wish you an awful lot of luck, success in your future. A mazel tov. I know you're going to do great tomorrow.
Hi, I'm Linda Park. I'm the president of Sisterhood, and it's my privilege to be here tonight to present you with a Kiddush cup and candlesticks of your very own. We hope that they will be a milestone memory for you and that we will use them for years and years to come. And even if you don't use them, that you will always have a special feeling about the occasion of your receiving them. We want to acknowledge this significant event in your life. We realize that it's taken an awful lot of hard work on your part. We also want to acknowledge the parents' involvement in making sure that you've reached this milestone event. So mazel tov, yasher koach, good luck tomorrow and have fun.
Thank you both so much. Thank you, Rabbi. We're going to continue now with the singing of Lecha Dodi. This is our song welcoming the Sabbath bride. It's on page 20. Cantor will be sharing the verse numbers that we're doing. And when we get to the final verse, we rise and we literally bow as Shabbat enters our hearts and souls. Please be seated, everyone, except for Eli. Come on forward. Eli will continue leading us in the chanting of the Chatzi Kaddish. We're on page 26.
Yitkadal ve'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach yirutei ve'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon u'vyomechon u'b'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala ba'agala u'bizman kariv ve'imru Amen. Yehesh me'rabba mevorach le'olam le'omaya yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yitpa'ar ve'yisholom ve'yitnaseh ve'yithadar ve'yithaleh ve'yithalal shemei dekudisha
Rechu.
le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata
Tushbechata v'nechemata damiran b'yalma.
ve'imru
Amen. Beautifully done. Thank you, Eli. Cantorial intern Liz is going to continue with a rendition of Adonai Ro'i. This is based on memorial literature, and we offer this in honor of Yom HaShoah.
Adonai roi lo echsar binotesh yarbitzeni al mei menuchot yenaleni nafshi yeshovev yahancheni b'magalei tzedek yahancheni b'magalei tzedek leman shemo Gam ki elech begitz al mavet lo irara ki ata imadi shivtecha u'mishantecha emayinachamuni Taroch lefanai, shulchan neged zorerai, tishanta vashemen roshi, koziri vaya. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai, kol yemei chayai, v'shavti b'veit Adonai le'orech yamim. roi lo echsar.
Temple Akiba is blessed through some extraordinary families and individuals. And through my entire tenure here, the Eigner family has been one such treasure. Rob and Sharon have raised two fine boys who both became B'nai Mitzvah in this sanctuary. And they bring with them stories from their past. Today, as we honor Yom Hashoah, we've invited Rob to come forward to share an element of his family story, to offer us the treasure and the light that is inside of him as he carries the torch L'Dor Vador. Rob, thank you so much for being here.
Hello. Good Shabbos. So today's a very special day for my family because on this very day, on the 29th of April, 1945, my father was liberated from Dachau by American soldiers. So Holocaust Remembrance Day carries, of course, a special weight and importance for us. Particularly so because my father died in August of 2021 at the age of 92, lived a great life. Before I go on, I want to thank the rabbi and the temple for giving me this opportunity to share our history, which I'm so happy to do. It's particularly poignant to talk about this right on the heels of Passover, because to me, and I think to many of us, Passover is about freedom. And sharing my parents' history and their experiences is so much about freedom for them and our family and our people, really. That freedom, in the case of my parents, really led to what I describe as a triumphant life, as you'll hear in a minute. So both of my parents are child survivors of the Holocaust. They're amazing people, not only because they survived those unthinkable horrors of Nazism, but really despite it. They went on to live in freedom, to thrive and have a good life, to raise a family, to really be pretty normal, which is sometimes rare with people who've had those kinds of experiences. They've celebrated and honored their religion and their heritage. And then they use these difficult experiences to teach tolerance and love and to really give back to their community, which they did for over 37 years. My mom continues to do. So my parents, Leslie and Eva Eigner, they experienced all the injustices that we've all seen in films and documentaries and we've read about, we know about. They were both forced to live in the ghettos in the Budapest area. They were both forced to wear the Star of David's. Both their families lost businesses and possessions and their dignity to a great extent. And that's where their experiences sort of differ a bit. So my father, as a 15-year-old boy, was taken to Auschwitz. My mother, as a 7-year-old girl, survived the entire war in the Budapest ghetto. And I'm going to share a few poignant moments, in this short time that I have the opportunity to talk to you of their history. But more importantly, I want to talk about the legacy that they've already left and the impact that they've had. So first with my father, as a 15-year-old boy, his family received a knock on the door from what was called the Arrow Cross Party, which was the Nazi party in Hungary. It was known as Arrow Cross. And they were rushed to the train station with very few belongings. It was my my father, his youngest sister, and his mother. And they got on to what was later to be known as the death train. This death train was no insulation, no windows, no sanitation, and of course they didn't know where they were going. And that would be enough to really make it be known as the death train, but really what caused it to be known as such is that the various military factions functioning in that area saw these transports as potentially carrying enemy soldiers. So they took passes at the train, shooting machine gun fire through the train. And my father described it as, people to the left and to the right of him were falling dead, and somehow he survived that. And as you'll hear, even in this short account, there's just so many miracles that describe their experiences. That train ended up taking him and his mother and sister to Auschwitz. And as we have all seen, the men were divided up from the women, separate lines. My father went in front of Dr. Mengele. As a fit, young 15-year-old boy, he was sent into the work camps. His mother and his little sister weren't so lucky. Of course, he didn't know that at the time, but what he does recall and often tells me and my sister is that he just saw this faint little wave from his mom and his sister, and that was the last time he had seen them. Again, inside the camp, there were miracles as well. One was that on a given day, one of the soldiers asked for volunteers. And my father raised his hand, not knowing what he was volunteering for, and it turns out he was being asked to do extra duty in the kitchen. Well, what this meant was he was going to be peeling potatoes. It also meant he was going to be able to stash away a little extra food and survive a little bit easier. While in that kitchen, too, he found a small knife that he decided to hide in his wooden clog so he could more evenly divide up food that he was bringing back to his bunkmates. And that really helped him survive. Until one day when he was chatting with one of his co-workers in the kitchen, a guard had yelled an instruction at him. He wasn't paying attention. He was in the middle of conversation. The guard, out of a fit of anger, took a pitchfork and stabbed my father through the foot, literally to the ground through his foot. And he was taken to what was called a hospital. We wouldn't consider it a hospital, but it was what was given to them as a hospital in that horrible situation. And so for a few days, he was let to rest and try to recuperate. He was getting an infection in his wound. There wasn't a lot of medication or pain meds or anything like that. And a doctor who was there, his name was Dr. Epstein. He was posing as a Nazi sympathizer. He was a Jew. He told my father, "You need to go back to work." And my father pleaded with him that he couldn't walk, he was in pain, he was infected, he would never survive out in the workforce. The doctor insisted and sent him back to work. My father, only to find out that the next day, anyone who was not emptied out of that hospital was taken to the gas chamber. So yet another miracle of how my father survived. And he talked about survival a lot, that it wasn't because he was smarter or more persistent or resilient. It was just, he just had a desire day by day to survive one more day. The last piece I'll tell about his journey is that different inmates had different uniforms. Cotton or flannel indicated what camp or transport they were going to be on. So my father had the clothing of an Auschwitz inmate, and he had stowed away or stolen some bread from the kitchen duty that he was working on. And there was a gentleman that he ran into who wanted to stay in Auschwitz to find a loved one and was willing to change outfits. So in exchange for the bread, my father exchanged outfits with this gentleman, the fate of whom we never found out. And my father didn't know where this new uniform was going to take him. But it turns out it took him to Dachau, which, as I said at the beginning, is where he was liberated from on this very day in 1945. The last interesting thing that happened there was that the American soldiers were passing out cans of Borden milk, condensed sweet milk, to these starved inmates. My father at that point estimated he weighed about 70 pounds as a 15-year-old boy. And many of the inmates devoured this rich, sweet, delicious food that they hadn't had anything like that in quite some time. And because their systems were so damaged from the starvation, they didn't survive. They couldn't process the food. And my father, again, not because he knew better, he just decided, I'm going to save this bit by bit and let it last a few days because I don't know when I'll get more food. And that, again, was another miracle that really saved his life. From there, he was taken to a Red Cross hospital, American manned hospital, and really had true care, unlike the hospital he spent time in the camps. So now I'm going to shift over to my mother. As I said, she was in the Budapest ghetto. Her father was taken to the Russian front and eventually passed away there. Her mother had been also taken by Nazi soldiers and was on a transport to the camps. And she was left, my mother was left with her older sister alone in the ghetto with other co-inhabitants in the flat that they were sharing. And one day they got the knock on the door and were taken by gunpoint to the Danube River, known as the Blue Danube. And what the Nazis were doing at that point was one by one shooting people that they didn't believe could work, could contribute to the war effort, and they were shooting them into the river. And that day the Danube became known as the Red Danube. My mother and her sister didn't know what to do. They had no way of fighting their way out of this. They were held by gunpoint. What they didn't know is that my grandmother, my mother's mother, had bribed her way off the transport on the way to whatever concentration camp she was being sent to. She bribed her way with rings and jewelry and whatnot, and was given a chance to escape, run into the forest, and it took her 2 days to, by foot, find her way back to Budapest. And when she came into Budapest and found that her children weren't in the flat, she immediately ran down to the river because neighbors had told her what was going on, and she found my mother and her sister in line, used what little valuables she had left to bribe and get my mother and sister out of that line. So yet another miracle. Many other things transpired, but we have limited time. 11 years later, 1956, my mother and father were introduced on a blind date, and within 60 days they were married, a very long engagement. And that's when the Russian Revolution started in Hungary. And they decided together that they did not want to endure more madness. So they, under the cover of snow and a white blanket on Christmas Eve, escaped Budapest and went through Austria up to Germany, Germany, and found a boat that took them to the United States, to New York, eventually settling in Portland, Oregon, where I was born and raised, along with my sister. They started a family, obviously, and we're just really happy to live the American life that we all enjoy. They did not talk to me and my sister about their Holocaust history. It wasn't really until I went to a history class in high school where I kind of pieced things together that they were Jewish, wartime, they were there, what happened. I started asking questions. They were quite reluctant to talk about it for probably personal reasons, and also they didn't want to have us experience the pain that they did. And it wasn't until in the 80s there were a number of Holocaust deniers became quite prominent here in the United States, and my parents decided they couldn't stand by idly any longer. And so this is really where their legacy starts, and it's so beautiful about, how they turned these horrors that they experienced into something really powerful. They started speaking on a regular basis at synagogues, schools, places of business, churches, etc. It's estimated over 37 years that they spoke to well over 200,000 people. I've seen bags and bags of thank you letters and gratitudes that they've received from various schools. They played a key role in raising money and dealing with all the red tape to build a Holocaust memorial in the largest park in downtown Portland, Oregon. It's a beautiful memorial if you're ever going there. It's in Washington Park. They also helped build a Jewish museum and Holocaust museum in Portland, of which this month my parents are the key exhibits. And maybe most significantly, they helped pass legislation in the state of Oregon to make Holocaust education mandatory in the school system. They've made a huge impact, and although I told you, my father lived 92 great years. He had a joyous life, and that really is the triumph, I think. He left me with one other miracle, and that is he died on the 18th of August. On the 17th of August this year, I was driving with my wife to take my son to college up in Seattle. We stopped in Portland. I saw him on the 17th. He was perfectly fine. We had a great meal and a good time together, and the next day he passed away. So it was just another beautiful ending to a beautiful life. My 85-year-old mother, who I think is watching on Zoom somewhere right now, so I'll wave at her. She continues to speak. She had a speaking engagement this week up in Portland. And as you can imagine, I'm just honored to call them my parents, honored for everything they've accomplished and everything that my sister and I plan to carry on. And I'll just leave you with one final thought, and that is that they were victimized, but they are not victims, and nor should we be. Thank you.
Rob, thank you so much for being here, for being light, and for sharing that story, because we do carry the torch. And as those survivors of those horrible years, as they die, we have to continue to live and carry that torch. So we honor so very much what you have gifted us with today. Thank you. We're going to come back into the liturgy of our service, and it's appropriate that we continue with a melody that reminds us that our lives are intertwined with darkness and with light. These words lead into the Baruch Hu, which are on page 28, and we invite the congregation, all who are able, to please rise.
Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Leolam Vaed. Leolam Vaed.
Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night.
Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, כולל אור מפני חושך, וחושך מפני אור. בורא יום ולילה, כולל אור מפני חושך, כולל אור מפני חושך, וחושך מפני אור. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light, night becomes day, day turns to night.
As we prepare for Shema Yisrael, we have a musical meditation to guide us into this prayer. It's on page 373, page 373.
Open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. Open up our eyes, teach us how to live with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace, your name, and we will know that you are one. And we will know that you are one.
Page 34, 34.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Please be seated, but not Eli. Eli, come on forward again. You're going to lead us in the chanting of the V'ahavta. We're on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך
Mitzrayim, L'hiyot lachem Elohim. On page 41, let's please read together in the English. Sing the song of men and women, joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. We continue with our Micha Mocha on page 40. On page 371 is a beautiful, inspiring song based upon the poetry of Chana Senesh, a Haganah paratrooper who fought against the Nazi regime, even to her death.
These are
Our worship continues with the tefillah. This is the central section of our prayer service. It begins on page 46. We invite those in body or soul to rise once again, and Eli, you're going to come forward to lead us in these prayers. Friends, we're going to continue with our own silent prayers. We can use the Siddur as a guide between pages 54 and 62, or else just make the time to listen to the quiet of your soul with your own prayers. And when you are finished with those prayers, you may be seated.
if the sun's tears could sing against a white stone. Such a yellow is carried lightly way up high. It went away, I'm sure, because it wished to kiss the world goodbye. The last, the very last, so richly, brightly, dazzling yellow. Perhaps if the sun's tears could sing against a white stone. For 7 weeks I've lived in here, penned up inside this ghetto. But I have found my people here. The dandelions call to me, and the white chestnut branches in the court. Only I never saw another butterfly. The last, the very last, so richly, brightly, dazzling yellow. Perhaps if the sun's tears could sing against a white stone. That butterfly was the last one. Butterflies don't live in here.
Our world is in such need of healing. We look to the other side of the world at Ukraine. People are crying out, "Help us." We look to our own city. People who are unsheltered are crying out, "Listen to us." And people right here in the sanctuary. We all, either ourselves or we know someone who is in pain. And so we offer this prayer of healing, the Misha Berach. On page 253, right in the middle, we'll share this prayer together, and when we get to the center, as my eyes meet yours, please share names out loud of those that you are thinking of. If you're here via Zoom or on YouTube, please share those names in the chat box so all of us can understand the presence of those that you're thinking of.
Source of strength
The anthem of Judaism has always been about hope. And even when we've journeyed through these darkest of moments, we've always held on to turning the page and going to a new chapter. And so even when we have a service that is filled with some of that darkness of our past, we still are able to place a signature tonight with two elements of hope. One of them we've already heard from, and that is Eli, who has done so incredibly today. And we can't wait until tomorrow when you launch into Jewish adulthood with your bar mitzvah, and we're all so proud of you. But the other signature for today is another woman, a person that we're celebrating tonight. Now, in Judaism, when someone turns 40, that is considered the age of wisdom. 40 is the age of wisdom. So 80 is therefore twice wisdom. What an honor it is for us to call forward Sue Polyp, who is celebrating her 80th birthday with us tonight. Sue, come on up, please. And even though we're going to be opening the ark, we ask the congregation to please remain seated.
I'm just thinking, I want to be Sue when I'm 80. Beautiful.
Thank you, Mary Lou.
Sue, when I first joined Temple Akiba, it was you and Sue Erfrig, who's also here, who were kind of hosting the committee on how to welcome me. And I knew at the time that I was sitting in the presence of two incredible people. And Sue, another time we'll honor you as we have in the past. This is about Sue Polyp. But I knew that I was sitting before one of the most gentle and genteel and wise and gifted women that I have ever come across. I said that your year of 80 is twice wisdom. In Gematria, the number 80 is the Hebrew letter Pei, which means one's mouth. Now in Yiddish one might call it a pisk, but for you, it's about the wisdom that comes out whenever you speak. You're the kind of person that when you share, we all just look at you and say, oh my gosh, what deep wisdom this soul has. And all of us have been the beneficiaries of it for many, many generations now. Along with your beloved husband of blessed memory, Rich, you build souls here. You connected with a chavurah that continues to be a driving force of our community, and so many of them are here tonight. And you give blessings to all of us each and every day. When we find out who your friends are who are not directly connected to Akiba, we know half of them, and it makes sense. You know good people. And your family members with good people, and it just makes sense. And so, Sue, on this day that we honor you, it's really a way of saying thank you, because you have honored us, and we love you so much. And we are going to offer you this blessing that is really from each person in this holy space. May God bless you. God's light shine through you and be gracious unto you. May God's light always shine through you and grant you the most precious gift, the gift of shalom, of peace. Amen.
Amen.
So lucky to be here. Wow. I'm a lucky person. This is such a wonderful.
Thank you again to Sue. It's now our honor to invite forward, representing the congregation, our one and only congregational president, Kathy Penzo. Kathy, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Oh, I'm so honored to be here on this bima tonight for so many special moments. First, I'd like to welcome everyone, and especially anyone who is here for the first time. Is there anyone here for the first time? Welcome, welcome. I see you. Sue has brought a whole cohort with her, no surprise. I also want to say hello to everyone here joining us on Zoom. And I want to thank Eli and his family for lighting the candles, for leading us in the Kiddush, and for hosting tonight's Oneg Shabbat, which we get to have inside our social hall. Thank you, Rabbi Cantor, Liz, and Mary Lou for such a moving and poignant service, and to Rob Einer for sharing your family's story with us. So moving and so important to carry this forward into the future. And I'm very pleased to be here tonight celebrating Sue's birthday. I've known Sue for many years here also at Temple Akiba. We go way back. I just wanted to bring up a few events that are coming up. We are having our President's Circle event this Sunday. If any of you are interested in learning about what the President's Circle is, you can see me after at the Oneg. And we have Mitzvah Day. Our 15th annual Mitzvah Day is on May 22nd. And if you want to get a t-shirt in your size for sure, please sign up by Sunday. There are brochures on the table right outside in the foyer, and you can still sign up anytime up until Mitzvah Day and even on Mitzvah Day, but we'd love to have you sign up ahead of time. It's going to be an incredible day. We're finally having it back here after 2 years of no Mitzvah Days. And lastly, I want to invite you all to attend our casino night on June 11th, which we were not able to have in January, so it's now in June, and it's going to be really fun, and all the information is on our website and in our bulletin, which I got in the mail today. So Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much, Kathy. We're going to continue with our concluding prayers, which begin with the Aleinu, or on page 282. We invite the congregation once again to please rise. Please be seated, everyone. On page 292, we have lived in numberless towns and villages, and in too many of them we have endured cruel suffering. Some we have forgotten, others are sealed in our memory, a wound that does not heal. 100 generations of victims and martyrs, still their bloods cry out from the earth. And so many at Dachau, at Buchenwald, at Babi Yar. What can we say? What can we do? How bear the unbearable or accept what life has brought to our people? All who are born must die. But how shall we compare the slow passage of time with the callous slaughter of the innocent cut off before their time? They lived with faith, not all, but many. And surely many died with faith in God, in life, in the goodness that even flames cannot destroy. May we find a way to that strength of the faith, that trust, that sure sense that life and soul endure beyond this body's death. They have left their lives to us. Let a million prayers rise whenever Jews worship. Let a million candles glow against the darkness of these unfinished lives. We take a moment now to honor the 6 million who died during those horrible years of the Holocaust. We remember them silently. We remember those also in our own congregation who have died, who continue to shine upon us from their eternal resting spaces. Is there anyone in our community tonight who is observing Shloshim, the first 30 days since a loved one has died? We add to their names the yard sites, the anniversaries of the deaths that occur on this Shabbat. And we begin with those who have plaques in our Sue and Jerry Orford Memorial Room. Osni Berman, Morris Byrne, Darlene Bilkis, Sarah Berman, Philip Edelman, Sam Estrin, Alan Gould, Frank Grossman, Betty Carroll, Sally Kramer, Abe Malkin, Isaac Marks, Esther Michul, Charles Aller, William Pesson, Richard Pollop, Toby Provisor, Florence Swern. We also remember Harvey Abraham, Zappy Arnold, Eleanor Na'ar Barron, Julius Blank, Ariel Cowan, Jerry Edson, Cynthia Alicia, Joseph Farias, Sidney Foyer, Charles Galen, Barbara Hochberg, Charles Holt, Walter Horn, Julius Clapper, Odette Lieberman, Philip Matthew, Jerome Paver, Jack Puritz, Mark Stewart Rosenberg, Irving Rubenstein, Dan Rubin, Art Silverman, Morris Smith, Karen Williams. Are there additional yard sites that those in the community are observing? And I will also ask if there is anyone here who is remembering someone who died who was a survivor, or if you had a member of your family who died during the Holocaust, if you will please rise. Our hearts and souls are with you on this Yom HaShoah, this day of remembrance. We invite all the congregation to please rise as we say the mourner's Kaddish in remembrance of those that you loved and in remembrance of our family who perished in the Holocaust. Yitbat Gadal, V'yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah, V'yamad Divrach Rotei, V'yamlich Malchutei, B'chayechon u'v'yomechon, Uvechaye dechol Beit Yisrael, Bagalau v'zman kariv imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach leolam u'amei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach, Yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal, Shemei d'kudashah b'reichu, Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechemata, Damiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who causes peace to be known in the high heavens help us understand that by reaching out to one another, we create peace on earth as well. For all Israel and for all humanity, we say,
Amen.
Everyone, let's take a deep breath. We're going to ask that you put your prayer books down. Our closing song is not in here. It's a beautiful, beautiful song that is based on a Holocaust memory. You don't need to know any word except for one. And what is that word, Cantor?
Dona.
There's a swan.
Dona, 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 dona. Dona, 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 don. Dona, 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 dona. Dona, 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 don. Stop complaining, said the farmer. Who told you a calf to be? Why don't you have wings to fly with, like the swallow so proud and free? How the winds are laughing, they laugh with all their might. Laugh and laugh the whole day through, and half the summer's night. Dona, 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 dona. Dona, 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 don. Dona, 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 dona. Dona, 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 don. Calves are easily bound and slaughtered, never knowing the reason why. But whoever treasures freedom, like the swallow, must learn to fly. How the winds are laughing, they laugh with all their might. Laugh and laugh the whole day through, and half the summer's night. Dona, 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 dona. Dona, 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 don. Dona, 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 dona. Dona, 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 don.
Eli, we're going to invite you one more time to come forward with your mom and your dad and Zachary. Zachary, come on forward as we break bread on this Shabbat. Motzi lechem min haaretz, we give thanks to God for bread. Our voices joining happy chorus as our prayer is humbly said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Everyone on your way out, if you can bring your sidurim with you so we can put them on the shelves. Shabbat shalom, everyone!
I guess it's time for everybody to have dinner. I know I have.